leveling off with our participants. So I'm going to have our first presenter from Georgia State come and share with us. So Alex, you are up.
All right, thank you so much, Allison. Good morning, everybody. My name is Alex Thomas. I have the pleasure of serving as one of the assistant directors of admissions at Georgia State University. I'm so glad that you all have taken the time to join us this morning. But I do want to give you a little bit of background about Georgia State University as a whole. So the university was founded in 1913. We started as a small business school in downtown Atlanta. And we've quickly become one of the fastest growing research universities in the entire nation. Next slide, please. And so you'll kind of see some of our national rankings here. Please don't get too wrapped up or concerned about these rankings, but they do give you a general context about where Georgia State falls among other universities. So we are ranked as a top public university for our commitment to undergraduate teaching, which I think is really important considering the size of the university. So right now, Georgia State has roughly about 54,000 students across all of our campuses. And that not only includes downtown Atlanta, but also around the metro Atlanta area as well. We're also ranked number 3 for being most innovative. Much of that can be attributed to what we are doing when it comes to student success and making sure that our students are supported after they enroll at Georgia State. You'll also see a top 10 ranking there for best first year experience. So our first year to sophomore retention rate is over 85%. So our students really do enjoy being on campus. And you'll also see that we're a top 10 performer for social mobility. And so you might be wondering, well, what exactly does that term mean for social mobility? Essentially what it means is that a large portion of our students at Georgia State receive some form of federal financial aid, and we are able to eliminate a lot of achievement gaps no matter what backgrounds they come from. So it doesn't matter if you are coming from Georgia, if you are out of state student, if you are a first generation college student, we're able to eliminate a lot of those achievement gaps after you enroll. And a lot of that can be attributed to what we're doing when it comes to student success. On the next slide, you'll see that we offer lots of different majors across the university, over 250 to be exact, but these are some of our most popular majors listed here. That includes accounting, fine arts, biology. Film and media is one of our fastest growing majors at the university just because of what the city of Atlanta is doing when it comes to the entertainment industry. So there's about a $6 billion film and media industry right now in the city of Atlanta. And so the university really wanted to capitalize on that. It's really increased the number of students who are coming to Georgia State wanting to major in film and media. However, we don't really admit students by major. There are some gated schools at Georgia State, such as our College of Nursing and our College of Business as well. But for first year applicants, we don't admit by major. Next slide. And so I talked a little bit about social mobility, and this really ties into this figure that you see on the screen here. So our average mid-career salary after graduation, and think of a student about 15 to 20 years out from graduation, is almost $91,000 per year, which is a great value considering that Georgia State's one of the most affordable four-year institutions in the entire state. A great example of that is Khalif Robinson. He is a student who attended Georgia State a few years ago. He was a first-generation college student. He worked multiple jobs while he was here at Georgia State, which is a very familiar story here on campus. And fortunately, he was able to really get connected to a lot of great advisors and mentors here on campus. And now he's actually working with the U.S. government, and he's also featured in a documentary film as well. Next slide. And so I spoke a little earlier about Perimeter College and all the campuses that we have around the metro Atlanta area. And so we have 5 to be exact. And you'll see that they're located as far north as Alpharetta, all the way down to our Newton campus out in the southeast metro area. And one of the benefits of going to Perimeter College is that you have smaller class sizes. So typically at Perimeter, your class sizes are limited to about 20 to 25 students. It's also 1/3 of the tuition of our downtown Atlanta campus. And once you complete at least 30 credit hours, you can then transition to our downtown Atlanta campus, or you can stay and actually earn your 2-year associate's degree. So there are some degrees there at Perimeter that lead students directly into the workforce with just a 2-year degree. And earlier this year, the Washington Post did a feature article about Perimeter, and they actually called it the Harvard for the masses, which we are really proud of. And we really want that to symbolize all the resources that we put into Perimeter College and making sure that students stay on track for graduation and really eliminate those achievement barriers that I spoke of before. Next slide. And so we recognize that there's a lot of opportunities outside the classroom at Georgia State. We have over 80 different study abroad opportunities from universities in Europe, Asia, Africa, and South America. Some of these study abroad trips last as short as 2 weeks, or what we call a mini semester, and then some can last an entire academic year. We even have some special funding and scholarships for students who never traveled outside the U.S. as well. We also are located in downtown Atlanta and really leverage that to our students' benefit. So we're surrounded by a dozen different Fortune 500 companies that really allows our students to earn internships right away. And we're very proud of that. Next slide. So this is kind of the first year profile for students who were admitted to Georgia State last year. We really don't have a minimum GPA and test score requirement to be admitted to the university. We do use a freshman index formula that really weighs both the GPA and the test scores. We also take into context your course rigor as well. But you'll see the median high school core GPA listed here, along with the SAT and ACT ranges. The Honors College profile is a little higher because it's more competitive. So each year, we take the early action applicants to Georgia State, and we accept the top 7 to 10% of those applicants to our Honors College. So you'll see that the average GPA there is over 4.0. Next slide. This is just kind of giving you a broader look at how many students have applied to Georgia State in previous years. Each year, we have admitted more and more students. We're seeing more and more students wanting to come to Georgia State. Our holistic review process is typically reserved for students who are interested in our merit scholarships and our honors college, but simply for admission to the university, we are simply looking at your GPA and your test scores and your application. Okay, so it's purely an academic review for admission to the university. Students will also notice on our common application, which is the only application we accept for Georgia State, you'll notice that the essay is optional along with the recommendation letter. However, I would strongly encourage students to make sure they complete that if they are interested in those merit scholarships and the Honors College. Next slide. These are all the admissions deadlines for Georgia State. You'll notice that November 15th is priority deadline this year. If students want to be considered for our Honors College and those merit scholarships. However, they have until April 1st. Our November 15th deadline is not binding, so of course students can apply before then and still enroll at another university. Our common application, however, is open right now. Even though there's a November 15th deadline, I always strongly encourage students to not wait until the last few days on November 13th or 14th or 15th to apply, because every year we are overwhelmed by the number of students who wait to the last minute, and it could make the difference in terms of their consideration for scholarships. Next slide. So Georgia State is very proud that we're one of the most diverse campuses in the entire nation. It's very unique in that the majority of our students do identify as students of color. And over 85% of our students receive some form of tuition assistance. Over 20% of our students are first generation. And then over half of our students are eligible for the federal Pell Grant. We also have students coming from all 50 U.S. states, all 159 Georgia counties, and over 130 countries across the globe. So again, it's very unique. It's a very urban campus, and it's also one of the most diverse in the entire nation. And then on the next slide, you'll see the website for our visitation. So if students are interested in scheduling a campus tour, they can always go to welcome.gsu.edu. And at this time, I will turn it over to my colleague.
Awesome, thank you, Alex. My name is Jalen Nguyen, and I'm an admissions recruiter at the University of Georgia. And I'm just going to spend some time with you all just to talk about the why and the how of UGA. So at the University of Georgia, we have about 39,000 students, with 29,000 of those being undergraduate, and then 250 plus majors that fit into 18 schools and colleges. It's important to note that with our admissions process, we do not use major. So if a student wanted to apply and they're kind of unsure what they want to do, if they were to be admitted, they were welcome to change their major as soon as they got that acceptance letter. So not to stress on that, it will not make a difference with their review. Something that makes UGA so special is Athens. So Athens is located about 90 minutes from Atlanta. And I think Athens is really awesome because has such amazing creative culture. There is music everywhere. There's really honestly something for everybody. I mean, it's very immersed within UGA's campus. So if a student came here, they would not necessarily just come to UGA, they would really make Athens a home. And I think that's super special. So these are two points of pride that we have within our school. Experiential learning is a graduation requirement at our university, but not to worry, most students honestly will complete this multiple times while they're here, and it is exactly what it sounds like. It is learning through your experience, getting that hands-on experience from what you're learning in the classroom, and that's really awesome because students are kind of getting that one up when they leave UGA. We take that pretty.
I'm gonna hop in real quick. I think Jalen's having some mic issues, but she got us off to a great start. Jalen, I'm gonna let you hop back in if your mic fixes itself in just a minute. But she was telling us about experiential learning, which is a big thing at UGA that it's a graduation requirement now. So all students have to take part in at least some type of experiential learning during their time here. So whether that be internships, study abroad, research, you name it, they have lots of options and usually fulfill that pretty quickly and easily. And then Double Dogs, accelerated degree programs. We have over 200, and this is the opportunity for students to earn both a bachelor's and a master's degree in 5 years. So you all know, a lot of you might have your graduate degree that usually takes about 2 years. So it shaves essentially a year off of the time that it takes to earn both a bachelor's and a master's degree. So on the next slide, let's see. You'll see our student success numbers. We're really proud of that first one. So first year retention rate, 94%. I know each of our institutions are gonna focus on that a bit because it's honestly kind of a grade a measure at how we're doing as an institution. And we're super proud of the fact that 94% of our first year students return for their second year. So they're enjoying their time here much more than just a percentage. They're happy and successful both inside and outside of the classroom. And then we can see 6-year graduation rates that we report in that manner since we are a public institution, well above national averages when you break it down to 4 years and 4 years in a semester as well. And then 91% of students are employed full-time or continuing their education after they graduate. So they're doing well once they leave us as well. And then let's talk about, on the next slide, getting into the first year admissions process. So our process focuses on the whole student, much like many of my other colleagues are going to talk about today. So it's not just these numbers. It's not just academics. Academics are important though. Of course, we want to know how your students have done in high school to gauge how they're going to do in college, and are they ready for the UGA classroom. And so you'll see here, this is our middle 50%. This is the way we report our data, knowing it shows something, but it doesn't show everything. So knowing that 25% of students fall below and above these ranges, we're focusing on core GPA, so math, science, English, social studies, foreign language courses. SAT, ACT scores are required this year, so we do at least need one. And that is one of the big updates we wanted to make you all aware of, that while we are requiring an SAT or an ACT score, ultimately that it's really going to make or break an admission decision, to be very candid, because it does come last in order of importance of the 3 academic pieces we're looking at. So core GPA, and then test scores, and rigor is going to come before test scores, looking at how your students have done in the classroom, how they've challenged themselves with the classes that they've taken. That 7 to 12, though, you have to keep in mind that honestly, it really doesn't tell you much about your specific institution. A student can't look at this middle 50% and think that they have to have exactly in that range of APIB dual enrollment courses. Many of your schools offer different things, and some schools offer 28 AP offerings, full IB diploma. Some students can dual enroll their junior and senior year. Some students may have the opportunity to take a max of 5 AP courses. So we very much view each student's application in context to where they go to school. So on the next slide, we'll kind of continue on our a conversation about the first year application. I wanted to start off with that academic piece, since academics do come first and foremost, that we are looking academically at how students have performed, and then conducting that whole student review to see how they would likely do on our campus. So here you can see, you've seen this probably a lot of places, our application checklist, a lot of the pieces that we're all going to need to consider a student for first year admission. We have 2 different application processes. So early action, regular decision, those are our 2 application types. The only difference, make sure you hear me here, the only difference between the 2 is the deadline. And so that was not the case 4+ years ago, but it has been for the last several years, that the only difference between early action and regular decision is going to be the actual timing of when a student's applying and when you're helping them, complete their application with the materials that you're submitting. So of these pieces, the biggies that we're needing from you guys are the high school transcript, of course, and that counselor school evaluation form. So that is different than a school profile. That also is helpful, but this counselor school evaluation form, this is the piece where you're evaluating for us how they've challenged themselves and how they've taken advantage of their course offerings that are available to them. Again, that big context piece when we were looking at that middle 50% range of the data for students who were admitted and enrolled last year. And then you can see the other pieces on here that students are responsible for, the short answer essays, optional teacher recommendation. We encourage them not to send us 5, but to be very deliberate in who they ask for that teacher recommendation to come from. Someone that knows them well in the classroom. This can be in addition to what you're providing for them. We know all of your caseloads differ. And so for a lot of you, it is not realistic or feasible for you to write a written narrative evaluation or recommendation for all of your students, and know that we are not holding that against your student at all, that you provide us what you're able to, the biggest piece being that evaluation of their rigor that comes from that school evaluation form. You can complete that through our counselor portal. You can complete it you can fill out the NACAC secondary school report. If you have your own form, really whatever works for you. So if we go on to the next slide, I want to talk about dates and deadlines, kind of round us out here. So early action, regular decision, we've hit those 2. Again, the only difference being in the timing of a student applying. So October 15th and January 1st being those respective deadlines. I want to talk a little bit about the other dates you see on here, and then I'm going to go back and end this with the early action, regular decision decision that can be made on a student's application. But the FAFSA priority deadline is December 15th. So of course, make sure your students are completing the FAFSA. It's always a good idea to see what kind of need-based aid they might qualify for. November 1st, want to point out the Foundation Fellowship. So that is our one scholarship within the Office of Admissions in conjunction with the Honors College that we do require a separate application for. It's the most competitive but the most rewarding scholarship process. And so that deadline is November 1st, and the students are applying for the fellowship and are interested, which I hope they are. They do need to apply for first year admission according to that early action timeline, so by October 15th. So early action, regular decision, what can happen when a student applies? One of the 2 ways. So early action, a student's going to find out a decision that's been made on their application. November 20th, I believe, was the decision release date last year. So around there is a pretty quick turnaround process. We are starting file reading, training, and norming on October 11th this year to make sure we're able to get those decisions out on time. A student can be admitted, denied, or deferred. If a student's admitted, yay, congrats, we would love to have you. They still have until May 1st to commit to us. So in that way, this is a non-binding application type. They're not bound to anything by just applying. Obviously, we would love to have them join our campus community if they're admitted, but they do still have until that May 1st commitment deposit deadline. If they are denied early action, it's not the end-all be-all. Rarely is it ever. If UGA is where they ultimately want to attend and end up, then they would apply for transfer admission. That would just be that next step. And about 32% of our students that graduate in Sanford Stadium every single year start off as transfer students. So it's just another path ultimately to get here. And if a student is deferred early action, that means we like what we see. We just need a little bit more time to review them, and we want to have updates. So whether that be test score, updated grades, if they're ready, if they're not, we get it, and that's totally fine as well. But they'll then more or less be rolled over onto that regular decision timeline and find out their admission decision with regular decision students typically mid-March. So that would be that decision release date for the regular decision process. That's that final decision release date. And I think, flip on to the next slide, that we are getting toward the end, but do want to point out, so I just touched on the Foundation Fellowship on that timeline, and I mentioned that's the only scholarship a student has to apply separately for. Good news is all other merit-based scholarships your students are automatically considered for just by applying for first-year admission. So just by completing an application for admission, we have what we need to know to consider them. And so we will consider them accordingly. We have a whole host of scholarships we're going to consider all students for. A mix of scholarships we consider non-resident students for. So they consist of tuition waivers that waive either the full cost of tuition down from non-resident to resident amount, or waive half the difference. But for all students, we are going to do that full scholarship consideration just by them applying for admission. Of course, please encourage your students to explore external resources like fastweb.com, Scholly.org, I believe, Scholarship 360 to seek out those external scholarships. All the departmental scholarships on one of the first slides that Jalen showed, it was 250 plus was the number of academic programs that we have here at UGA, so a good many to offer. By the way, intended major has no bearing on an admission decision, but if a student already does know what they're interested in, they can explore that departmental web page and see what type of scholarships they have to award. And then, of course, speak with the Office of Student Financial Aid and fill out that FAFSA to see on that front what that looks like. And then on the next slide, I think we're rounding up here for our part. We would love for your students to visit us. We have returned to in-person visit operations with limited capacities, but students can go to that visit.uga.edu, and you can as well. We would love to have you come visit us on campus. And if that is not feasible, we still have virtual offerings a few times a week that they can register for. But yeah, stay in touch with us. Let us know how we can help you support your students. And of course, feel free to pass along our contact info, your respective UGA admissions counselor, if we can be of help throughout the process. With that being said, rounding out my part, and I am going to hand it over to my colleague.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Shereen Clement. I'm the Assistant Director for Admissions here at Augusta University. And today I'm going to be talking to you a little bit about Augusta University and what we have to offer your students. So moving forward, Augusta University was founded in 1828. We trace our founding back to 1828 with the founding of the Medical College of Georgia, which then consolidated with what was Augusta State University, and then emerged as Augusta University in 2016, which is our undergraduate degrees combined with the Medical College of Georgia and the Dental College of Georgia, all located under one institution. Augusta University boasts about 9,000 students. Only a little over 5,500 of those are undergraduate students. So although we're a medium-sized institution, your students will experience more of a small institution, especially during that undergraduate career with us. We have a student-to-faculty ratio of about 15:1, and our average class size is going to be about 22 to 23 students while they're on our campus. You can see here we have over 150 different degree programs, but Augusta University is known as the designated health sciences excellence institution for the state of Georgia, which we love, and a lot of that has to do with our the medical and dental college here, so the only public medical school and the only dental school in the state of Georgia as overall. But we also we'll talk a little bit later about our top majors, but cell and molecular biology being our most popular undergraduate major, as well as nursing being a huge thing on our campus. Over the last year, there's been a lot of changes at Augusta University, and I think that we've seen those changes across the state due to COVID-19, but that has allowed for Augusta University to really step forward as the leader in our state. We were tasked with the COVID-19 response as the public medical school, and that led to a lot of opportunities for our students to engage with our faculty. One of the most, I think, impressive ways that occurred was the development of a screening app that was used early on in COVID throughout the state. that anyone could use, and it was actually a joint effort between our faculty, staff, but interdisciplinary as well. So students from our cell and molecular biology majors, students at the medical and dental college, but as well as our computer science students, our graphic design students, really all coming together to create this app. You'll see a lot of those different opportunities at Augusta University when it comes to research and hands-on work, but in the last year, there's been a lot of opportunity for that for students. Moving forward, we're going to talk a little bit about our top majors for students. And when I say top, I mean our most popular. We already touched a little bit on biology, specifically cell and molecular biology. That tends to be super popular with students who are looking for the pre-med or pre-dental route at Augusta University. Computer science and technology, specifically cybersecurity, is a huge thing on our campus. We actually have an entire campus dedicated to cybersecurity on the Savannah River that was given to us by Governor Nathan Deal, because he really saw Augusta as a thriving place for cybersecurity, and that has grown a lot over the past few years with different cybersecurity firms in the city of Augusta, but even occupying that building on campus. So those students are able to take classes right across the hall from future employers, future internship opportunities, and just have that really hands-on opportunity there. I touched a little bit about nursing being a top major for us. We actually house the state's oldest and largest nursing program. So you'll see a lot of students here looking into nursing, interested in that, as well as our other allied health sciences degrees. Business, again, isn't our most popular. I think business is a popular major across most college campuses, but we offer a very customizable business degree that students really enjoy. They can really hone in on what they are interested in that major field. Again, kinesiology, really big for students who are looking into physical therapy. Our kinesiology degree is actually housed in our College of Education, which makes it stand out a little bit. But on our Forest Hills campus, we have kinesiology labs dedicated for those students, and they're doing amazing research. I think most recently I was reading how they are researching the effects of the keto diet on mental health. So lots of really great things that students are doing, and being able to take that research to the next level and present it. Last but not least, psychology, which is, again, always a popular major. Here you'll see a lot of students, again, majoring in psychology with that pre-med concentration. I do want to highlight our professional scholars programs because they tend to be of great interest to students who are looking at Augusta University, especially those students who are looking to go into the medical field. So starting with the nursing scholars program, that's a program that allows students in their senior year to apply to Augusta University. And if they meet the minimum requirements, they are in the running to start at Augusta University in their freshman year, having already held their spot in our nursing program. So being able to a little bit bypass that secondary admit phase and already have that spot held. In a similar fashion, students who are in our BSMD and BSDMD programs are applying to Augusta University in their senior year of high school. And if they meet their minimum requirements, being able to hold their spot at the Medical College or Dental College of Georgia. They also are getting to complete their BS degree, an MD or DMD degree in 7 years. So it's an accelerated program as well as a way for students to be able to kind of, again, eliminate a little bit of that stress. So students know and they're feeling really confident that that's what they want to do. It's a great opportunity for them to pursue those programs. They are highly competitive. You can see you're looking at usually about 30 students between medical and dental and about 20 to 30 students for nursing. But those students who are a part of that program, I think, see really great outcomes and are able to jumpstart that process for themselves. Moving forward, we're going to talk a little bit less about academics and more about Augusta University and the city of Augusta. So if y'all have not been to Augusta University or Augusta before, I really would recommend you come. We want your students to come, but we'd love for you to also come and see our campus in the city we live in. Augusta is the third largest city in the state as of the census reporting. So we used to be the second, but we're the third now. So although we do house our university, it's not just a college town. There's a lot happening here. If you have done a tour before and you are thinking about coming back, I would highly suggest it, as we are now extending our tour to be between our historic Somerville campus, which you can see the picture behind me, but also our medical campus. So you'll be able to come and see both, when in the past we actually did keep that to one campus. Some other great things happening at Augusta University is we just opened a new building on our health sciences campus this fall, and it's one of the first more dedicated undergraduate buildings on that campus. So students who were there are able to be right in conjunction with our medical, our dental students, and all of our other graduate students while still learning. And that campus also already housed our residence halls, our gym, and our largest dining hall. So a lot of changes happening there for the undergraduate experience at AU. We just added a major in nonprofit management. So students who are looking into public service or nonprofit work can get a bachelor's degree in nonprofit management, which is super specific, but Augusta is actually a great place to do that because we have almost the most nonprofits per capita in the state. It was actually just ranked the friendliest city in the country. And a lot of that has to do with our nonprofit presence and volunteerism. So a really great place to study that, as well as some other new majors that have been added. So we really want you to come learn about these new majors, our campus, and how it's growing and changing. And I'll talk about some other visit opportunities as we move forward. And now I want to talk to you a little bit about the financial portion of this, because obviously finances and the cost of college is a huge factor for our students and they're making their college choices. You can see here that one academic year, an in-state student at Augusta is going to spend a little under $19,000 and an out-of-state student a little under $34,000. That's inclusive of tuition fees, housing, and a meal plan. So it's a pretty inclusive rate, and about 80% of students at Augusta University receive some sort of aid. As we are a public institution, we accept Hope and Zell Miller. There's also institutional scholarships students can apply for, which I'll talk about that process briefly later. So moving towards the application process, we try to make it as straightforward as we can for students. But of course, if there's ever any hiccups or confusion, you can always reach out to us, and we are here dedicated to help you out with that. Our fall 22 application is already open our application every year on August 1st. Our early application deadline is November 15th, but again, that's a non-binding deadline. We do hope that students apply early just for their sanity to get the process going. But students who are interested in the Scholars Program have to apply by November 15th to be able to enter into the second part of that application process. Another reason that we urge students to apply early is the institutional scholarship application deadline is February 1st. And at Augusta University, students must apply separately for scholarships, and they cannot apply until they've been admitted. So if you apply by early application deadline, you'll get a decision in mid-December, giving you a good chunk of time to complete that scholarship application. Whereas if you wait, we move to a rolling decision process, and that time is going to become more and more limited. So we do urge students to apply by November 15th. Our application process is really centered on the freshman index calculation. So students applying must meet a minimum freshman index of 2240, and we are always willing to talk to students about what that looks like and what that means in more detail. Our average incoming student last year entered with an 1113 SAT, a 23 ACT, and a 3.48 GPA. And as all the other schools have mentioned, we do require test scores again this year for admissions. May 1st is our enrollment confirmation deadline. So that's the day we want students to know, to let us know if they are interested in becoming a new JAG, if they want to be in Augusta, and they do that by completing a form on their portal that lets us know their intent to enroll, and then paying their enrollment confirmation deposit, which is $200. That goes towards the cost of tuition in their first semester. So that first semester will be $200 cheaper. And then July 1st is our final admissions deadline, and that is where we can accept any additional documents a student might need to submit to us. So AP scores, I know this year we got a lot of AP scores a little bit later than normal, but those things that come normally over the summer, dual enrollment transcripts, lawful presence documents, anything we need to confirm enrollment or confirm a student's class schedule needs to get to us by July 1st. They'll be good to go in August. Now we'll talk a little bit about some of the visit opportunities that I did promise you we would go over. We have a lot of opportunities for students to engage with us on campus and virtually. We do offer daily visits. So those daily campus tours happen every weekday at 10 and 2 p.m. We also have various Saturdays once a month. Once a month on Saturdays you can come, and that's more of a full day visit. For students, it's going to be a little bit longer than a daily campus tour. We have Explore Augusta events, which are regional events. This year they're going to be virtual, but normally that would be us going to different parts of the state and meeting with students on after school hours. See Augusta, which is our preview event, will be happening in person. Fingers crossed this year in October, and you can register for that online. You and your students are more than welcome to come. It'll be on October 30th. Really excited about that. We have virtual visits twice a week on Mondays and Fridays, so students can sign up for that. But we also are more than happy to visit your schools virtually or in person this year. We are working and reaching out to you guys as we move through this fall to make sure we can engage with your students in person if your school allows for it. And then last but not least, we do host group visits. So if your students are interested in coming in a larger group, you can definitely arrange that with us, make sure that the visit meets your needs and standards, and we can get you a campus tour, but also meet with other people on our campus if you'd like to. And that is a good, overview of Augusta University. Please ask questions if you have any. We'd love for you to continue to engage with us. On the next slide, you can see our contact information, as well as some of our social media information. We would love for you to reach out to us via phone or email, and we'll make sure that your email gets to the right place and we get you connected with your assigned admissions counselor, and that we can help you through this process and help you support your students as well. Thank you so much, and I hope you'll have a great day.
Thank you, Shireen, and thank you everyone for joining us today to learn more about our institutions. My name is Ellery Kirkconnell. Hopefully you can hear me throughout this presentation, and I'm one of the senior admissions counselors here at Georgia Tech. And even though this is going to be a roughly about 10 minutes presentation, I'm going to deliver it more as a conversation base because I really want you to get as much out of it in the next 10 minutes or so. Next slide, please. Progress and service. That is our motto. It is not in Latin, it is in English, and it is truly at the core of who we are. I'm pretty sure oftentimes you get asked, what are the attributes? What can I do in order for me to get into Georgia Tech? And to be quite frank, honest with you, we are looking at students who go above and beyond than just a classroom. Progress and service exemplifies those students who are challenging the status quo. Those are the students who are going above and beyond. And before you said anything about COVID-19 and the implications that it's had on students' activities and engagement, I'm definitely going to circle back to this slide when we're talking more about the application process. But again, as you're counseling your students to learn more about what are the strong attributes to help them get into Georgia Tech, you have to make sure to remind them that we're looking for those students who are not only academically right, but also those individuals who go above and beyond outside the classroom. So just keep that in mind as you are counseling your students throughout this process. Next slide, please. The academics is very important. It's by far the most important aspects when we're looking at a student's application. But once on campus, we want students to know that they can take advantage of many different academic offerings. As you can see here, we have about 16,000 undergraduates. That is a very comfortable number for me. We're not a very large state institution, and we're not a small liberal arts school. We're like right there in the middle in terms of interaction with other students. I do love the fact that we have representations from various counties as well as countries and all over the U.S. within that student body. As you can see here, before I jump into the majors, you can see here that we have a retention rate of 97%. If I'm not mistaken, I believe the national retention rate for schools across the board is roughly 62 to 67%, roughly around that ballpark. So this retention rate truly is a testimony to not only the quality of students that we're admitting that are returning to Georgia Tech, but also the quality of faculty and staff that are helping retain these students year after year. So that is something that we are extremely proud of. We continue to boast about this accomplishment because we want to make sure that those students that we're admitting are the students that can continue their career here at Tech. And as you can see here, we have 36 different majors. And that is no mistake. If your student is looking for a plethora of different majors, we may not be the right place for them, and that is perfectly okay. But we want families and students to know that within those 36 different majors, we want students to have the opportunity, if they choose to have an exploratory education. So for example, we do not limit your students are not grandfathered into just taking classes in engineering. Your students have the flexibility if they want to major in mechanical engineering, as an example, in minor in CS, that is a viable option. If a student wants to major in biology and wants to minor in industrial engineering, that is a viable option as well. It is not common for students to double major at Georgia Tech. It is possible, I've seen it done year after year, but it is not the norm. It is more common for students at Tech to major in minor, and in some cases, it's even more common for them to major in double minor. Again, we want them to know that they're more attractive when it comes to graduate school and employment opportunity when they're honing on more than one skill set. So we are definitely looking for those students who have an interesting approach to learning and studying throughout the application process. And once I get to the application review slide, I'm going to talk more about how we read the application, but there's been this fallacy going around saying that it is more advantageous for a student to apply into, let's just say, the Ivan Alice College of the Liberal Arts, which, by the way, I want to emphasize that every single degree on campus, including every degree in the College of the Liberal Arts, every student will graduate with a Bachelor's of Science and not a Bachelor's of Arts, because we incorporate science, technology, and research into every discipline on campus. So that's one of the advantages of our liberal arts program, that they will graduate with that Bachelor's of Science. So just make sure to relay that information to your students. But again, there's been this misconception, this fallacy going around that it is more advantageous for them to apply into, let's just say, public policy versus computer science. And when we, even though Georgia Tech does not admit to major, when we are reviewing application, we are making sure that we review the student's application based on their major. So for example, if you have a student who is applying for chemical engineering, and out of the 4 years of high school, they have not taken chemistry, well, we have a problem there. If you have a student who is applying to, let's just say, public policy, but they don't have any single liberal arts courses or humanities courses or social science courses, and all their courses are either engineering heavy, we can see that most likely is going to be a bait and switch type of situation. So we don't admit to majors, but we definitely, when we're making our decisions, we want to make sure that there's a correlation when it comes to students' academics in the classroom with their intended major here at Georgia Tech. And listen, I get it. These are young adults. They're going to change their major about 5 times in 1 week, and that is perfectly normal. But I want you to also make sure to relay to your student that it is possible for them to change their major at Tech before they arrive on campus and even after they arrive on campus. There's no reapplying. There's no additional information needed. They might have to go through a couple of steps here and there, but there's no reapplying to any of our majors because, again, keep in mind, our motto is that we don't admit to major, we admit directly into the institution as a whole. Next slide, please. My colleagues at UGA did a phenomenal job talking about experiential learning, and experiential learning is definitely one of the biggest buzzwords right now in higher ed landscaping. When you are thinking about applied academics, when you're thinking about experiential learning, there are 3 pillars that comprises that here at Georgia Tech. As you can see here, and by the way, it is not required for students to complete one of these 3 pillars, but it is very popular amongst most, if not all, students on campus. Anecdotally, I don't know exactly the percentage of students that engages in each of these events, but I would say that the co-op is by far one of the most popular ones. But before I get into co-op, I want to mention to you all that our goal at Georgia Tech is to train global citizens. We want to make sure that our students are equipped for a global economy. And in order for us to do so, we want to make sure that their work is not only limited in the classroom at Georgia Tech, but also outside the classroom. And 3 ways in which we can incorporate that, by far the first one is co-op. Now, let me start with study abroad. Let me start with that one first. Study abroad, I want to say nationally about only 23 or 25% of college-going students study abroad. Just very, very limited. At Tech, we have 53% of our students studying abroad. So we completely dismantle that fallacy that students who are in engineering or in BMed don't have the time frame or the luxury of studying abroad. 53% of our students study abroad at Georgia Tech. So that is something that we're very proud of. And we send students to about 160 different programs in 60 different countries. So for those students who have that travel bug in them, especially after the 2 years of being in hibernation for the pandemic, now that there is an option for them to pursue. In terms of research, by definition, we are a research institution. We have over 43 different research facilities on campus. In fact, we even have one research facility that you have to have security clearance in order for you to enter. So that's to say the caliber of research that's being conducted on our campus right in Midtown Atlanta. And the last and definitely one of the most popular one is the co-op program. Atlanta, Georgia is home to the number 3 city in the country for Fortune 500 headquarters. So again, imagine the direct correlations that our students have when it comes to having these cooperative opportunities. And when a student decides to do a co-op or internship, mostly co-ops, students' tuitions is never charged because you're not taking any courses, and the money that student makes during co-op goes into their pocket. So again, there's that monetary incentive, there's that experiential incentive for students to take advantage of all of these 3 programs. It's big on our campus. Is big in many college campuses, this idea, this notion of applied academics, because truly students thrive better when they have practice in theory both implemented at once. Next slide, please. Campus life is really thriving in Atlanta. You know, we're very fortunate. We're very lucky to be situated in Midtown Atlanta. I cannot talk about tech without talking about the relationship we have with the city of Atlanta. On our campus itself, we have, as you can see here, over 500 active student organizations. We have women in engineering, we have robotics. Don't ask me why, but we even have a lettuce eating club on campus. But that's to give you an idea in terms of the quality and the diverse levels of organizations that we have available for our students. As you can see here, when it comes to sororities and fraternity organizations, we do have the houses associated with those chapters on the campus. And we're Georgia Tech, but we also have a strong and growing arts scene growing on our campus. So for those who have not had the privilege of being on our campus recently, just make sure to walk around and you'll see many of the different arts installations through our campus. It's very, very beautiful to see. And of course, we are a Division I athletic team. We can go to the next slide, please. The return on investment is something that's very important for not only our students, but definitely for our families. So when you're talking to families in terms of, well, my son and daughter are going to put in blood, sweat, and tears, what is the return on investment? And as you can see here, that this 74K is the average student salary rate. And that is by far, no question, a very impressive figure, especially in the type of economy in which we're living in. But if you pay your mind to the 87% down there, that is by far more impressive to me. That 87% is telling us that before our students are handed their diploma, before our graduate and seniors cross the stage, 87% of them are fully employed or in graduate school studies. But they're not just employed in any field, they're specifically employed in their academic pedigree. So what our students are learning at the undergraduate level, when they leave Georgia Tech, they're implementing those skill sets. So we're very fortunate that our career services continues to rank #1 in the state of Georgia, and our students are benefiting tremendously from this return on investment. You see here that we have over 7,000 on-campus interviews. That is correct. We have Google, Microsoft, NCR, Chick-fil-A, welcome to the South, right? Those are some of the companies that physically come to our campus to interview our students directly. You know, some of them offer employment opportunities on the spot, so our students have that amazing networking available to them. Next slide, please. In the application review process, I know I'm very limited on time, but let me see if I can just punch in as much as I can within this slide right here. The first thing that you should focus your attention is the deadlines, as you can see here. And by the way, we are only using the common application. There is no other application that we're using. The common application is the only one we're taking. And there are 2 deadlines that your students will qualify for: the early action 1 deadline and the regular decision. Is it advantageous to apply one versus the other? And the only benefit is for those students who are seeking Georgia Tech specific scholarship, and this is not Hope or Zell, these are our Georgia Tech institutional scholarship, no question, they have to apply early action. That is the biggest advantage I see when students are applying to Georgia Tech versus early action 1 versus regular decision. And I will be honest with you, and I would say that based on the review process, that when we're reading an application, we typically tend to see the strongest Georgia applicants apply early action. So when you're counseling your students, when you are having these conversations, early action versus regular decision, just keeping in the back of your mind that typically the most strongest applicants that apply to Tech submit the application by the early action 1 deadline. Excuse me. And if I did not mention this, I do apologize, that we practice something called holistic review process. So we don't operate under the fact that if you have a certain SAT score or a certain GPA, you are automatically admitted. We don't operate on that. We want to make sure that we put all the pieces to the puzzle. But I would say that by far the most important piece to anyone applying, whether you're in DeKalb, Fulton, White County, whether you're in wherever you are, whatever county you're in, whatever part of Georgia you're in, the first thing that we're going to look at is the academic preparation. And when we were doing this presentation last night, the common questions from students was, what are your minimum SAT scores? What are your minimum GPAs? And I want students to know that because we are under the Board of Regents, we do have a minimum GPA and we do have a minimum SAT scores. And all your students can find those numbers for all our public institutions on the Board of Regents website in terms of what are those minimum GPAs. But we want students to know that by far the biggest deciding factor is going to be their academic performance. So that GPA and the transcript is going to be very indicative of whether or not they're going to be successful. But what's more important is behind that GPA are the courses. So we are looking at the AP classes. We are looking at the IB classes. We are looking at the dual enrollment classes. And we get it. Not everyone in Georgia has access to dual enrollment. Not everyone has AP courses. Not everyone has IB courses. But one thing that you can tell your student is that if you see other students who are taking 8, 9 APs during the 4 years and your school only offers 3, that is okay. Please tell your students that when we are evaluating an application, we are always evaluating them based on the context of their high school. So we're not going to compare a school. I'm not going to compare, even in the same county, I'm not going to compare North Atlanta with South Atlanta because I know that those are 2 different schools. They offer 2 different course curriculums. But what I am going to do is when I'm reading a student from said school, I'm going to evaluate the the profile, see what that school offers, and make my decision based on that when it comes to the academic review process. So I don't want your students to be infatuated with taking a certain amount of AP dual enrollment IB courses if the school doesn't offer. If your school offers, by all means, make sure that they capitalize on that. But I don't want them to leave here knowing that if they don't have 7 AP classes because the school only offers 2, that they're at a disadvantage. So just keep that in mind. The next thing you can see is the contribution to your community, which is very important. And the contribution to your community is where many students fall asleep at the wheel. Many students feel as though they have a certain SAT score and GPA and they're automatically admitted, but the contribution to community is very important because we're allowed to see what are they doing outside the classroom. And the last thing I mentioned before transition over is the fact that we are requiring the SAT and ACT this year for students who are applying to TAC. Next slide, please. Financial information, as you can see here, this is the cost of attendance for our Georgia residents, tuition and fees. I do want to emphasize that we still have the VOW and SAL scholarship available for automatic admissions to students. So if your student attends a school with 50 or more students, then they graduate 1 or 2, they're automatically admitted. They can apply early action and they can still be deferred even if they're VOW and SAL because we want to see the entirety of the application. So again, keep that in mind that even though they're valid, so we may defer them. We eventually will admit them, but that is a program that we still have implemented in our system. And we also have Tech Promise, as you can see here, for families making under that set figure, they can qualify for the income-based tuition that we offer our families. Next slide, please. Oh, and with that being said, thank you all so much. And I want to bring my colleagues back into the conversation.
Awesome. Thank you all so very much. And thank you for our representatives. So we have Ashley back from UGA. We're going to have Shireen from Augusta, Alex from Georgia State, as well as Eller from Georgia Tech. Right now, we're going to enter into our live Q&A period. So if you all have any questions that would be good for all institutions to answer, please